So I encourage you, and you'll know when trying these things out and taking some photographs of yourself, if this is something that you can do on your own or not. So this is really just for your future knowledge. We're not doing a graded practice about this. It's just for those who might want to have this skill, either doing it for yourself or maybe for friends, right? As friends are getting headshots done, you might want to charge them a tiny fraction of what a pro might charge and help them through that. So possible income stream for those of you who are who feel very confident and adept with that stuff. So think about it that way, because you too, with some experience and with a portfolio of friends' headshots, can be the person who starts charging $100. So think about that. There are a couple different things to explore. I'm going to start by talking about skin, because this applies to both men and women. No matter if you have perfect skin, right? If you have Evan's skin, you probably don't need much of anything. Oh, me? Right? Not to say that there are other people who don't have perfect skin. They're not me. So you probably don't need much of anything. So for men with perfect skin, you're probably great as you are. You may want to think about if you're very light skinned and have any kind of say very common discoloration around the nose, you might want to think about that. These are things that a photographer can touch up for money, but you might want to consider dealing with that. A little bit of concealer, and I'll do a demo of that. Anywhere you have redness tends to be a little bit around the nose, on the nose itself. Men on the nose itself, a little bit of redness is fine, is very natural. But if you've got any kind of broken capillaries here around the nose, you may want to think about lightly patting in some concealer. Similarly, if you have very dark circles, on men, you want to be careful about getting rid of those altogether because it looks a little unnatural. But a little bit of concealer sort of here in the darkest area patted out. I'm going to do a concealer demo. If you have problematic skin, breakouts, men, I would recommend for you a little bit of concealer. I will be doing a demo of that. And then blending that really carefully, but otherwise you don't need sort of full foundation. If you have a lot of discoloration, or if you have freckles you want to cover, or sort of birthmarks you want to cover, you may want to think about either a tinted moisturizer, which I can show today for ladies and men, or some full coverage. But for men, full coverage is going to have a tendency to look a little mask-like, so I want to steer you away from that. Ladies, it's essentially the same rings true. If you have perfect skin, ladies, I would say, even if you have perfect skin, you want to go with a little bit of coverage, just because sort of evenness is something that's kind of a goal of sort of our perception of the female complexion, fair or not fair. So even if you have perfect skin, a little bit of tinted moisturizer or a beauty balm applied very lightly can be really helpful. What I do for that, and I'll sort of show you what I use. This has, look for something that's like skin perfecting or illuminating. You don't want something with a lot of sparkle in it, but a natural coverage beauty balm is great for that. We're talking about, well, let's see. Come here. So if you have, yeah, go ahead and sit on this table. If you have great skin but just want to sort of even out coverage a little bit, a beauty balm is good. Tinted moisturizer is good. You can find really good drugstore brands of these, so you don't need this. But look for sort of natural coverage. And this is Guerlain. This is in your 30s and don't have kids brand. So this is pricey. All right, so for any kind of light coverage, tinted moisturizer or beauty balm, you don't want sort of any more than this on most areas of the face. So this is even smaller than a pea-sized amount. I'm going to use this amount on forehead, I'm going to use this amount on nose and chin, and about half that on each of her eye areas, and then for the cheeks a little bit more. But you can do this, especially light coverage, by hand. So I'm just going to kind of use the finger to spread it across.
This is really dry, so you're probably going to get skin all over.
Actually, it doesn't feel too bad. And this is just a hair light for her.
Never. Like your socks.
But sort of starting in the middle and blending outward. Now, what's nice about this is that the coverage is so sheer that if you have like freckles or other things that you want to keep because they're sort of personality defining, it sort of smooths it all out a little bit, but it doesn't conceal them. Like, she's got great sort of light freckles, and I wouldn't want them to go away because they're part of Hannah. So it's sort of just a little bit at a time, and then again, always starting from the middle. I sort of use the same batch for the nose and in between the eyes, kind of smoothing that out. Finger applying is great because you can sort of feel where it's going in or not, and I'm not worried about making it really even because it's so sheer, you can't really tell. I'm then kind of around. Make sure you get around the nostril. Sorry, is that too
No,
good?
I just don't want you to put your finger in my nose. For your sake, not for my own. I mean, I don't care.
And then again, same with the chin, starting from the center and then working outward. And then if you've got sort of slightly problematic areas, sort of let that dry, and you can always do another layer. But for young skin, this kind of coverage tends to be enough, where it just gives an overall smoothness. Again, with the cheek starting from the middle and working your way up and out. And if it gets really thin by the time you get sort of to the edges of where you're blending, that's actually great because you don't want, what's going to help you avoid that sort of mask-like appearance is if the coverage is softened out toward the jawline and the hairline. So it's still, it's Hannah, it's just the redness is a little softened, you know, any kind of like birthmarks or freckles are present but a little softer. It's just a little more even, and it has a nice sort of natural glowiness. You want glowiness without any kind of sparkle. For those of you who want a little more coverage or for going for a very glamorous look, you can do full foundation. Who wants full foundation for the rest of their day? Anyway, so sort of greater coverage.
You can't do that on top of
Yeah.
what I just did.
Yeah. It's gonna get cakey. Okay. I'm gonna do the full jam.
I still have it on my.
Great, come on up. So, when doing sort of the full, I'm gonna do the full skin prep on Kaylee. Before you start your makeup, if you have any bits of dryness, breakouts, exfoliating can be really helpful. You can do this with a sort of like a scrub. I find for me, they tend not to work because like anything with like walnut shells or any kind of like beaded scrubs tend to leave sort of little raggedy bits that make me feel more dry than if I weren't to do anything at all. I like a sort of a chemical exfoliant. Alpha, beta are things to look for. Alpha hydroxy acid, lactic acid. These are some things to look for. This will sting is too strong a word. This will tingle just a little bit.
Okay. Don't melt your face off, Kaylee.
It's gonna. When I'm doing something like exfoliating, I start with sort of the less sensitive areas. So, for example, the forehead, the nose, and then I work my way to more sensitive places like the cheeks after.
Casey, have you ever used Clarisonic?
Uh-huh.
They're magical.
The Clarisonic is great. Actually, I'm taking a little left over from.
Oh, I forgot to take my.
Yeah, I like the Clarisonic. It's about $100. I don't use it every day. My dermatologist is like too much, but I use about 3 times a week.
Yeah.
This particular exfoliant, you need to leave it for 2 minutes and then follow up with the other one. What exfoliating does is sort of reveals your healthiest complexion, gets rid of dead, dull skin. If you have breakouts, it helps open up the pores so they can clean themselves out, and I highly recommend that. So prepping, you want to exfoliate, probably not the day of, but doing it a few times a week in the few weeks that lead up to, whether it's headshots or a special event. And then it's true of waxing. If you need your sort of eyebrows waxed, you don't want to do that the day of. Do it a few days, even a week ahead. Use someone you've used before so they're not burning you and ruining your appointment. And then be sure to treat sort of any skin problems as you can. Acne that comes up. You know, ladies, there are times in the month when it's probably not a great idea to schedule headshots. So think about that stuff, right? Great. How was that? Tingly?
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah. This is a 2-parter, but there are other things out there. Great. You can even, if you have found an exfoliant that is that you're sure doesn't irritate you, I would do that the morning of. After that, you want to moisturize, so you can go ahead and apply that. Get some, even if you have sort of oily skin, moisturize the cheeks. Do a little bit of light moisture, oil-free moisture in particular if you have oily skin, on the T-zone. It just creates a glowier, plumper, healthier look. Any kind of dryness really shows up on camera. Yeah. Great. Giving that a few minutes to dry. Right. So I'm going to do foundation. I'm going to do concealer. Which do I want to do first?
Concealer.
Foundation.
Wow, I just love it.
Because if you're doing, and this is true for your daytime makeup. If you're doing concealer first, you're going to use too much, because then you're going to do foundation over it. Do the foundation, and then you'll need less concealer. And also, since you're applying concealer with a smaller brush, do the foundation with your larger brush, and then you're not going to wipe the concealer away as you apply foundation. So that's something to think about. For camera, I love to do a primer. There are a couple good ones. If you have oily skin, the Smashbox Photo Finish is really great. Kaylee has really like normal skin with just a teeny bit of shine. It's really helpful. So I'm just going to do sort of a basic primer. Primer is good if, and important if you're doing several looks in a shoot, like if it's going to last for several hours. Primer will help your makeup last for several hours, particularly if you're going outside, or many people do these like spring and summer, so it's going to be hot.
What does it do?
It helps it creates sort of an adhesive layer in a sense that keeps the makeup clinging to you. Otherwise, it sort of creates a barrier that absorbs natural oils that keeps them from the makeup from sliding off. So this is good if, you need long-term solution. If, your photo shoot is just a couple of hours, but you have kind of an oily T-zone, down the center is fine. If you're doing kind of special event makeup, like let's say you are a bridesmaid or a groom's person, and there are going to be photos of you throughout the night, a little bit of primer can be useful. And then let that dry. If you're doing sort of a short shoot of 10 looks in the same shirt, you don't need primer. All right. I'm not sure what I want yet. If you are doing a long shoot, consider long wear foundation. There are a couple great ones. There is MAC Pro Longwear, and as artists, you are eligible for a yearly membership to MAC. I think it's $30 a year. It might even be less for students, and you get something like a 30 or 40% discount on anything you buy. Something to consider. You can also get samples. They're pretty generous about that stuff. So consider that. Their long wear foundation is great. It dries really fast. So you'll want to sort of work quickly. If you don't need, it also dries matte, which for ladies can be helpful. It's all about sort of what you want to project to the world. A matte foundation looks very polished. A natural foundation like I did on Hannah or a BB cream looks fresh. And sort of what you're going for. If you want to look like your younger self and you have great skin, maybe it's the tinted moisturizer. If you want to look more sophisticated, you might want to try the full coverage. So it's partly about what you want to kind of project with your headshots. If you're going more casual clothing, you might want to do more casual face. So sort of think about that. For example, you know, I wear a BB cream during the day, but for the Barrymores I did like a full coverage matte foundation. Sort of matching your outfit in that sense. Another thing you might want to try or try getting samples of is the Makeup Forever line. It's a French line and it is built camera ready. It's great for film and it's going to be great on camera. It's sort of built to be sort of the molecules of it that make it up are really fine, so it sort of sinks into the skin and looks less mask-like. I'm going to try this one on Kaylee.
Question about foundation.
Shout out.
Generally speaking, I prefer a powder foundation because my skin gets so oily.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something I should embrace for, or say foundation for the purposes of camera?
I would. Not all are made equal. Bare Minerals is pretty good on camera. I'm not sure about everything else. Take some pictures, not with a camera phone, but with a camera, and you can sort of see. My concern about powder is that sometimes it can look cakey.
Okay.
You know, like you can sort of see it and it gets uneven looking.
Okay.
But it's something to try out. It can be great. So if with liquid though, you can use one of the triangular sponges, which give a little less fineness. You can use the Pink Beauty Blender sponges. I like a brush. The secret to using a brush or even your triangular sponges for liquid foundation is to go in two directions. You want to start from the center and work your way out, but that will leave kind of the streakiness of the strokes. Then you go back and cross-hatch kind of the other way. So starting here, and then cross-hatching this way as you go will give you both centralized coverage. You want to start at the redder areas, nose, cheeks, and work outward where you need less coverage. You want to blend it into, say, the hairline or the jaw. Let's see how this color looks on her.
When like looking for a color,
Mhm.
and like say you're not sure if it's like your shade, should you go like lighter or like a darker?
It depends on your skin tone. A little bit lighter can be fine. If you have light skin tone to begin with, I don't recommend it. And this is like a little too yellow on you. Let's try this. Put this all together. Now, drugstore foundation is really only about a third less expensive nowadays, but you're much more likely to waste that money because you can't test it out. So if you hope to do a lot of print work or camera work, you might want to invest in a decent liquid foundation. And don't be shy about having someone in store help you pick it.
Men too?
Not for you. You have good skin. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have young skin. There, that's better. All right. So you want your most coverage in the center and then work your way out. So I get a little bit on the brush and then I blend it around. And if I get it onto the lips, it doesn't matter so much. That's all right. you'll notice that I, especially if I'm mixing a couple of different colors, I'll put it on the sort of the meat of my palm. It keeps it warm. If I'm not pouring it right onto the brush, which means I'd get too much, it gives me sort of something to dip into. If you have any kind of artist palette, that's fine as well. So the advantage of full cover foundation is it covers any redness or other discoloration. It takes a real first stab at under eye circles or any kind of like capillary, you know, redness on the lid. But what it unfortunately does, it can really mask lovely natural features like freckles and stuff. Like Katie's got really cute freckles and now they're going away. But as you can see, it's sort of, you can see there's a formality about it, like a real smoothness. And as I'm blending, I'm kind of cross-hatching just to make sure those strokes disappear. Look for things that are called natural coverage or matte. In a foundation, you want to avoid luminous because they can be shimmery and kind of wet looking. And this is true for me for eye makeup as well. Sometimes, say, shimmer eye makeup can look absolutely dynamite on camera. And sometimes it can look like you just got out of the pool and it's crazy. Your $400 or $500 headshot session is maybe not the time to take that chance. Close. Stay closed. You want to get into all crevices too, like in the little corners of the eyes there, and open and look up. And open and look up. You want to get it right up to that lash line because that'll take care of sort of like the purple that we tend to carry around our eyes. Because the thing about like a full coverage look is everything then's got to be full coverage. You can't miss anything or it'll really pop out as a flaw. Close, please. Stay closed. All right. Now, what you'll notice is even if you have breakouts, if you have a full coverage foundation, it'll take care of most of that stuff. Yeah, look here. Oh, here, let me give you so you can follow along. Right? Like, not quite you anymore. Like, really sort of perfectly clear. And a little too even for a casual look. But if she's wearing something that's sort of like black or something that's a turtleneck of some type or something dressy, this like really polished look can be dynamite. So I'm going to show you how to apply concealer. I like to apply concealer with a brush. I think the fingertip gets a little more product than you need on it, and also can sort of put it on a larger area than you need. I also personally like a sort of a creamy concealer. For me, the liquidy ones like melt away really quick. So anything that is sort of a creamy consistency, I think is great. And again, there's nothing here I would conceal, but just to sort of show you what we would do. So gentlemen, to say apply concealer around the nose or across the lids, you want to get in there with a brush and just tap it where you want the color and then blend away at the edges. If you have any kind of blemish, you just want to tap that color right on top, and then around the outsides of that, blend. But again, she's looking perfectly smooth, but any kind of like, now, if you have any kind of raised spots, for example, birthmarks that you want to conceal or anything like that, if they're raised, you want to take the color of the concealer slightly darker than your natural color, because even to hit, because it's going to pick up a little highlight because it's a little bit raised, so a color slightly darker will help lower that. If you have a particularly like tough blemish or something, and a layer of concealer doesn't work, do a layer, smooth the outsides, powder it, do another layer just on top of the blemish itself. Part of the problem with concealer is that if you do sort of too big a ring around the blemish, it's going to be really noticeable as, hey, there's makeup over here. So you want to keep those outer edges really blended and light, and then powder, and then hit just the inside, the raised or the round or the reddened part of that blemish a couple of times. Bless you. Great. How it's 2/3 of the way in the semester. How do you not have dark circles under your eyes? So pretending that she has dark circles under her eyes, they're really, really light. Again, you want to kind of lightly press. Don't swipe, because you're going to end up putting color where you don't want it, but kind of lightly pressing. Either with a color that perfectly matches your skin tone with foundation, or slightly darker. If you go slightly lighter, it's going to have that look that you've been to a tanning booth, you know, and it's going to sort of, especially with the camera flash, it's going to draw attention there. We don't want that. So it doesn't need to be sort of, all the sort of purple needs to totally go away. A tiny bit darker than other places is good. That's natural. So we just want to tap it on top of that there. And then just sort of blend enough, sort of pulling it across, just enough to kind of blend it all together. And you can use the same brush that comes in your kits. It's perfectly adequate.
What concealer palette?
This is Makeup Forever.
Okay.
Yeah. I also I used to use this for daily use. But if you've got like slightly problematic skin, this is my and it tends to slide off blemishes midday. Boing, which is Benefit. It's changed everything for me. It's great. Great. Now, I love to do a really neutral eye with really soft liner for headshots. It's a fresh look. It's how I also do brides, maybe turned up a little bit. But you are the guardian of the message you want to put into the world. So if slightly retro is your thing, or you want to reveal to the world more of your personality or more edge, there's no rule about that. Sure, go with colored eyeshadow or go with liquid liner. But if you want a more chameleon-like appearance, neutral shadow is useful for that. And again, keeping it matte. Essentially, the same rules apply to bringing out the eye for stage makeup as they do for headshots. You want sort of highlighting on the lower lid and under the crease, and then shadow in various degrees in the crease. If you don't like the shape of your eye, you can reshape it a little bit. I have a very hooded lid, but if I can put shadow into the crease and kind of raise it up onto the hooded part, I can create the illusion of a deeper set eye. All right. So again, I'm going to keep it matte with maybe a teeny bit of shimmer in the center of the lower eye, starting with something that's a little lighter than the skin tone for the lower lid. And you'll notice I'm not totally sweeping across so much as I'm kind of daubing it. You'll get a little more coverage that way, and it'll cling to the foundation.
Question.
Mhm.
So I've watched several videos of how to make eyeshadow work for hooded eyes, and the with no avail. But what's your stance on shimmer versus matte? Because I've heard like some people think, oh, if you do shimmer, then it draws attention to the part you don't and want, and then matte. I don't know. I've heard like both sides of the argument.
I like a little bit of shimmer. For me, like just for daily use, I'll mix them. Maybe layer a bit of shimmer on top of the matte, because I think there's a flatness to matte eyeshadow that's less appealing for daily use. So essentially I'm just following really naturally the shape of her crease here. Using kind of a dome shaped brush. I think more than matte versus shimmer is getting it right into the crease and letting it blend sort of above the natural crease a little bit. And here's where you can reshape the eye if you want. She's got a great wide almond shape. So I'm just sort of playing into that and sort of sending the powder out. If, for example, I have, along with a hooded lid, a really almond shaped eye that I like to create sort of a more domed look, and that's also part of it. If you want to conceal a hooded lid, keeping it really round can help to do that. On her, I'm just sending it out a little bit.
Bless you.
Thanks. And then pressing it, a little bit of that highlighting shadow here. Now if you want to keep it really fresh faced, this'll do. This has kind of a no makeup look. If you want sort of a little bit more of a, yes I am wearing makeup, you can take, so this is what I did in the crease, and this is what I did on the lid and on the brow bone. If I want to do a slightly more intense look, no, if I thought this was going to look on camera, it's way too shimmery. I would use that. Having this, I'm going to try a little bit of this layered on top of the deeper stuff, just along the outside. So, please. And the other side. And okay. Yeah, so really, really natural. Now, you're probably safe to do a little bit of shimmer lightly in the center of the lid. Tends to give it the eye a little bit more sparkle, but again, something that's unfortunately the really inexpensive stuff like your Wet n Wild or whatever it is will just look plastic. So this is a really natural look. I might even, since she's got great big wide eyes, skip liner, because it tends to, when you want the eye to look really open, it tends to close the eye off a little bit, and just hit her with a lot of mascara. If you're a liner person and that's just part of your identity, absolutely, but resist the urge to line all the way around. It's going to really close up the eye. So keep it right up at the lash line at the bottom and along the top, and I will do that to show you. Something I like to do is sort of an in-between, because with my hooded lids, liner tends to look hard. I will often use powder as a liner. Close, please. So just a little bit of something neutral along the lash line itself. And open. And right under the lashes too. On the bottom, I tend to keep it very soft, and on the outer half. And this is a very light liner. I can also, to show you, use a very fine brush to show you what sort of lining with powder can do.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. So just using that same deep powder and a brush that's very thin, kind of pressing that into the lash line. Okay. The goal kind of being like no makeup. Like I said, if smoky liner or liquid liner is kind of a part of your artistic identity, go for it. You know, there are no rules about that. But I will say that, and particularly in theater, that's going to be fine. It's not going to make that much of a difference. If you're using your headshot for film, though, it's not that they're like myopic about it. But for whatever reason, since they're getting so many headshots for print and for media work, whatever criteria they can use to rule you out, they will. So whatever that means to you. And I'm not a headshot expert in terms of like what they're used for outside of theater, but you may want to like just check with someone who might have opinions about print and film work and the headshot use for that stuff. Not my area. She has great full brows, so I don't really need to do this, but if you have any kind of unevenness or like little bare spots, and this goes for men too, a strong shaped brow can be really useful. You want a color, and I've said this before, that is closer to your skin tone than your hair color. So these brows are very, very filled in with blonde pencil, and they come out pretty dark, but they look really natural. I mean, naturally my hair ends kind of like here, and all this is pencil. So I like something that's really close to the skin tone. So if you're white, that means blonde, or if you have deeper tones, light brown, and then just sort of filling in any areas, maybe emphasizing the crease.
We have 13 minutes.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so speaking anecdotally, I will say that when I had to cast Thomasina in Arcadia, you know, a 13-year-old character, a headshot for actors I didn't know can be a helpful tool for helping me to envision that. So if you have the option, right, if you have the option of a couple different looks in your headshot, and you can do liner quickly and you can do shadow quickly, you might want to consider sort of dressing up and dressing down. Something to think about. All right, so keeping eyes kind of neutral can be useful. Blush, you will want more than you think. And to prove it, look at any picture of a bride and bridesmaid where she has had her makeup done professionally and they have done their own. She's going to look all glowy and they're going to look all pale and washed out. Test it by taking a couple, even your iPhone or whatever, with a flash will show you if you have the right amount of blush. It's going to be more than you think it ought to be, and you just have to trust it. To do that, go natural colors, peaches, light pinks, avoid lots of glitter, but a little bit's not a problem. What I like to do, and you don't really need multiple tools to do this, but I like to start with a bigger, softer brush and then move to sort of a smaller, more directional brush, because what you want is to start with a wider, softer area of color with a little stronger hit of color in the middle. Gentlemen, if you tend toward the pale or the washed out, or you're using like a little bit of concealer maybe on spots along the cheeks where it might take out some natural ruddiness, consider using blush as well. But stopping at sort of the softer, wider that I'm about to show you. So a little bit on a big soft brush, shaking it out. The short flat brushes that come in blushes are gonna create coverage that looks slapped on with a paintbrush. So you want sort of softer and domier. So smile real big. And starting from the center and working out kind of a nice wide area. Especially if you're doing full coverage, this is really important because it just colors back in sort of that natural rosiness. And again, I'm coming all the way nearly toward the center, starting in the apple, coming all the way to the cheekbone and down and lower. So nice soft wash. Gentlemen can stop there. Ladies, either take the center of that brush, kind of squeezing it together, or a brush that has a little more direction, and then right in the center, want a little bit more intense color. So that feels like too much, doesn't it? Like knowing your face?
Mm-hmm.
But this is what you want. You want to take it one notch too much. Yeah. And the thing is especially with a really polished look, so long as you're keeping it, sort of keeping it within the color values of eye and lip, once I get her lips on, it's not going to look like too much anymore. It's just, you know your face and it's going to feel like you've gone too far, but you don't want to look washed out. Because going back in and rosying you up is going to cost more post-production. Yeah. So brows filled in. Guys, that's true for you as well. While we're on brows, let me show you. So you guys have great, young, even if they're strong, grow the direction you want them brows. However, there will come a time, gentlemen. So if you have really thick brows and want to soften those up, or you start getting brows that kind of grow not quite the direction they're supposed to go, this little brush, hang on to him. What you want to do is you want to brush all that hair straight up. See, I just did this recently. You want to brush it all straight up, and anything that grows kind of past the natural hairline, take a little scissor and trim it across. And then smooth them back into place. What it's going to do is it's going to shorten individual hairs, which will keep them from looking kind of bushy. Bushy eyebrows will age you. They will also, as you get older, make you look a little eccentric, which can be useful for certain kinds of parts. But if you want to sort of get your brows in order, brush them straight up, and then anything that sort of sticks up above that sort of hairline, trim it away. It'll probably be 3 or 4 hairs at the most that are longer than the rest. If your brows also sort of don't go in the direction you want them to, clear mascara, gentlemen, is great. Brow gel is probably more than you need to spend extra money on, but is the same thing, is great, just combing it a little through. Or if you want to avoid all of that, the teeniest little bit of hair gel, just the tiniest bit of tagging it and just sort of tap that across will keep them going in the direction you want them. Lips. For men, you want those to be moisturized. A little colorless chapstick the morning of and maybe a few times in the shoot will make the lips look sort of healthy and moist. If you tend toward chapped lips, or you're doing this in the winter when we all tend toward chapped lips, start a chapstick regimen 2 weeks before you start. You want those lips to be nice and supple. Any kind of like dry, crackly bits of skin are really going to show up and will cost you money to fix in post-production. if you have real dry lips and don't have very much time, if you're like, oh crap, I forgot the regimen, a couple days before or even the day of, in the shower when all your skin is warmed up and moist, like at the very end of a 10-minute shower, take your washcloth, very gently buff the lips to remove any kind of dead skin. Too vigorously and you're going to cut your lip, but very gently. You can use the sort of the light cloth bristles of your washcloth to smooth those out. What is it?
The Lush lip scrub.
Great.
It's
that's
sugar
what I was
and
thinking.
they've like there's a popcorn one. I like the mint one. It's amazing.
There's a bubble gum.
Great. Yeah, we could spend all kinds of money. If you're like, I don't need lip scrub. You know, if you're an addict, great. But any kind of like, and colorless.
Do you do anything after like buffing them?
I like even a chapstick look for the headshot. It just gives it a slight moisture that's youthful, really good. Great. And then, so the trick with ladies is if you have really, if you, like me, have highly pigmented lips, I'm just going to clean off foundation I got on there. And you want a natural look, you can go with just a little bit of, say, colored balm or colored gloss. For headshots, you want to keep it sort of pink, coral. If you're going for a natural eye, the most natural color you can do is find a lip color just 2 shades darker than your natural color. What I'm seeing in here mostly is sort of pink and berry, a little bit of coral. That can be great. Gloss, while not great on stage, is really nice in a headshot, especially if it's not sticky gloss. So again, this is just balm that kind of matches her natural lip color. So long as you don't get the glossiness outside of the lip line, that's great. This lip is probably better with tinted moisturizer than with full coverage foundation. For that, I would take a color that's just a few shades deeper. And again, if you don't want super deep color, do lip balm first, and then a little color on top of it. Matte lips are a very strong statement. If you're gonna do like a matte lip, then you need full coverage foundation to do it. Otherwise, it's gonna look like you're wearing no makeup except for a big strong lip. A neutral lip can sort of help put you in a greater range of characters, right? So I get this headshot and she could play a teenager, or I know that she could play an adult. Anything else is gonna put you in a couple different categories, which is fine, depending on what you need. But yeah, glossy is great. Colors that help bring out sort of the white of the teeth are sort of reds with a little bit of blue in them, instead of like tomatoey or orangey red. Like, Hannah, hold up your folder. This is sort of tomatoey red. That's gonna bring out the yellow of your teeth. Something with a little bit of blue in it is best. And for anyone, crust white strips, you know, even just a few of them in the week before you get your headshot are gonna make a big difference. So think about that. They will also, as you get older, help you look younger. And avoid coffee, red wine, you know, sort of while you're doing that. Natural glossy.
You got 1 minute.
I got 1 minute. Questions. I think I've covered everything. And get good sleep. I know. Lips. I think I've covered it all. You can wear false lashes if your lashes are sparse, ladies. It's generally not necessary, but if you have a real thin set and you're comfortable with those are an option. And then especially for camera, you want, here, I'll spend my last few minutes powdering. You definitely want to powder. If you have nothing else, you can use the stuff that's here in your kit. Gentlemen, if you tend toward a shiny complexion, I would use powder as well. A little in the hand, tap with the brush, get the excess off, and then just lightly tap, starting across the T-zone. Will help absorb shine and keep the camera from getting like flashy on you. Yes? The best, so there's no greater practice on this. The best way to practice is practice and take some pictures. And I'm happy to give you feedback because pictures will be the most honest with you. So next week is demo for injury and illness.